What's up, man? You already know who it is. It's your boy Tasso Sauce, and we'll be back with another video. In the last video, I made a comment about Red Dead. This video popped up while Red Dead Online died. Let's talk about it.
Grand Theft Auto Online is one of the most successful endeavors in the history of online gaming, and it came out all the way back in 2013. The title absolutely printed money for Rockstar and had hundreds of thousands of concurrent players at any given time. While it may have eventually evolved into something that evoked mixed emotions from longtime players, it was a solid foundation for something beautiful. A foundation that could single-handedly create the biggest, best, and most impressive online game ever made, Red Dead Online. A true open-world Western RPG where you could roleplay as a bandit, outlaw, sheriff, cowboy, trader, and anything else that your wandering Western mind could dream of. Red Dead Online had the potential to leave the biggest legacy in gaming history, one that could last for decades to come. But, well, that didn't happen, and Red Dead Online failed to reach its fullest potential on nearly every single level. The game is pretty much abandoned now, with no major updates planned and immense disappointment from longtime fans of the game and IP. You could say that—
You know what? I thought I was tripping. I really thought I was the only one who didn't fuck with it. Like, that shit, from Red Dead Redemption 1 to 2, it's a drastic difference. I played Red Dead Redemption 1. I put so many fucking hours into that game. And I was so excited for Red Dead Redemption 2. Pre-ordered and all. Got on it and I was just like, this is not it. And I barely played that game.
That Red Dead Online has failed, and the story of this failure begins with the launch of a single-player masterpiece. Red Dead Redemption 2 was universally praised and was considered a strong contender for Game of the Year. It was beloved for its high level of detail, breathtaking environment, and realistic.
Yeah, that's because I ain't played the story mode.
Red Dead Redemption 2 had the best atmosphere and most lively world in the history of gaming, and it was an ideal playground for players to enjoy role-playing with friends. It was the perfect game for a multiplayer expansion, and expectations were extremely high. But fans would soon be brought back to earth when they saw the actual product. On November 27, 2018, the Red Dead Online beta opened. After months of hype and excitement, players were disappointed. The game was empty, and while the beta was released with a humble amount of cooperative missions, a variety of free-roaming side quests, and solid support for PvP and competitive play, it felt like it was lacking in depth.
That was crazy.
There were only a handful of quest types. Stranger missions, which are quests given to you by NPC across the map, free roam missions, which are short tasks found by exploring, and story missions. These shallow quests were the only real way to make money in the game, so people got bored pretty quickly. At its best, Red Dead Online brought a thrilling world where players competed for bounties and defended their home turf. At its worst, the game felt like a grindier and less interesting version of its single player. The grindiness in particular was something that players complained about from day one. Progressing in the game was—
Okay, yeah, when I talk about the game being trash, I'm not talking about the story mode and all that. I ain't playing. I'm talking about online. Strictly online.
slow and painful. It also made the lack of content even more apparent, as you were forced to continuously repeat the same few tasks to earn gold bars, the game's currency. But even with these surface-level complaints, fans were still optimistic about Red Dead Online. And GTA Online also had similar criticisms launched at it in the past, and, well, look how far it had come. When it was released, it was panned for being undercooked and pointless, but through a healthy amount of updates, Rockstar had transformed the game into something awesome. As long as they gave Red Dead Online the same treatment, everything would be okay. Rockstar celebrated the end of the beta with a massive update that brought 5 new missions, and this reaffirmed people's hope. If Rockstar figured out how to combine elements from the award-winning story found in single-player with engaging and responsive multiplayer elements like what they had just added in this update, Rockstar could have had a truly unique experience in their hands. And barely 4 months later, they released another massive update, Frontier Pursuits. Pursuits weren't perfect, but it was a big step in the right direction. It gave players something to do with various specialized roles like bounty hunters and traders, each with their own gameplay. These roles not only brought more content to Red Dead Online, but also encouraged players to get more invested in the world. Interest in the game was beginning to spike, and it was easy to see why. It seemed to finally be building its own unique identity. But despite the positive buzz, there were still issues. To start, Red Dead Online's pacing was terrible. Actually getting the gold bars to access new content was borderline painful. Everything was still a dull grind. The free roam missions pay you gold based on the amount of time that you spend on them, so they literally require you to waste time to make money. Completing the missions in 3 minutes or less will yield you 0 gold, while taking a full half hour nets you 8. Basically, you were incentivized to take as long as possible to complete the missions in order to make the gold to buy the items that you wanted. I don't know who thought that this was a good idea, but the system incentivized you to sit around, be bored, and take longer than necessary to make money. To give you a better idea of what this looks like, let's take a look at a common quest that requires you to kill an animal that's terrorizing some locals. If you kill the animal in a 20 to 30 minute window, you'll earn about 0.40 gold. You could kill it in 10 minutes, but then you'll earn even less. A fairly cheap horse will cost you about 6 gold. So you would have to do this 30-minute mission for over 4 hours just to be able to barely afford a horse. And not to mention, this mission isn't even fun because you have to take double the amount of time to do it, because if you do it too quickly, you'll earn even less money. As you could see, the economy and the structure of these missions made no sense, and honestly, it made the game boring and uninteresting, and it seemed like a ploy to annoy players and get them to spend money on microtransactions. As we all know, GTA Online is known for its aggressive microtransactions. Things are so notoriously expensive that it almost makes sense to buy a shark card and get your cool weapons, houses, cars, and companies the easy way.
The crazy part about that is, I don't mind the grind on GTA. I don't really want to sit in free mode that long, to be honest. I want to do missions. Now, granted, when the game first comes out and I'm trying to grind and like get my house and all that shit, I'm gonna be trying to do missions and shit. I'm like, let's do some missions so I can be in free mode and want to be in free mode and get my shit. Come on, bro. I don't mind being in free mode, but I don't want to be in free mode for fucking... let's just say I play GTA for 4 hours. I don't want 3 out of the 4 hours I'm sitting in free mode. I'm not doing that, bro.
But there were tons of things that you could spend your in-game money on, and it caused it to feel exciting to work towards these goals. Yes, it was a grind, and sometimes it was annoying when you had to do the same mission over and over to unlock a new car, but the payoff was worth it.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, 100.
We don't care.
Walking into that new house for the first time felt like you were actually working for something. This made it to where you could still enjoy the process of earning things without buying shark cards. Sure, you can buy the shark cards and make it easier, but you didn't have to because the process was still pretty fun, especially in the early days. Rockstar tried to take the same approach with Red Dead Online, but they missed a key point that allowed it to work in the past.
And what's that?
Instead of overloading players with content, they starved them of it. There wasn't a lot to do in the game, and everything that you did do was extremely tedious, yielded little to no money, and was not easily repeatable. It seemed like they wanted to incentivize those microtransactions that they used in GTA by removing all interest whatsoever for a player to unlock things the normal way. The push towards microtransactions was too heavy, and the lack of enjoyable things to do made it feel like a requirement. But the bad part was that even if you did have the money, there was nothing to spend it on. There were no properties for sale that you could buy and customize, no saloons that you could invest money into and run, no customizable wagons that you could travel around the map with, and nothing with any substance. Only a random array of cosmetics, trinkets, horses, and weapons. It was very underwhelming. Even after multiple large updates, Red Dead Online was still a shallow experience with major issues. If Rockstar wanted to keep the game's momentum, they had to do one thing to fix all of the problems: add content. More content would give the game depth, help the endgame economy, and keep it from feeling so empty. As long as Rockstar did the bare minimum, Red Dead Online would be in a good place. And then, Rockstar decided to abandon the game. During 2020, they went radio silent. They released nothing in March, April, or May, 3 entire months of a critical period in Red Dead Online's life. The problem wasn't just that they didn't release anything, but they also didn't announce anything or communicate at all with fans. Players went from confidence in the game's future to having no idea what Rockstar was doing. And to make matters worse, GTA Online fans weren't getting the same cold shoulder. They were getting their regularly scheduled updates and announcements. And it's also important to note that this content drought took place during the pandemic, a time when gamers everywhere were trapped in their houses with nothing to do but play. Red Dead Online received a noticeable spike in player interest that could have translated into a permanent increase. Rockstar wasted an opportunity to drastically grow the community. During the same time, GTA Online thrived and became the king of Twitch. If Red Dead Online had received a solid update, it could have benefited from all of that attention and could have been launched back into the mainstream. By mid-2020, fans were frustrated. They were irritated that the many issues that Red Dead Online still had weren't fixed. They were bored of the shallow content and frustrated that Rockstar refused to show even half of the commitment to Red Dead Online that they did to GTA. And just when things were at their breaking point, Rockstar announced another update. The majority of the updates that Rockstar had released were relatively uninteresting and underwhelming. Things were going in the right direction, but they'd never quite gotten where they needed to be. People wanted more. Red Dead Online needed a revitalization that would add depth to the mechanics and make the gameplay worthwhile and reduce the insane grind. So with the announcement of this update, it had a lot of potential to save the dying game. Especially with the massive drought that had gone on between updates, this one had to be game-changing. So, you know what they added? Hunting. That's it. The Naturalist update added a role that allowed players to engage with nature in a more robust way. You could track, hunt, and get samples from animals. It also gave you 2 new NPCs to interact with. Wow, how exciting. To be fair, if Red Dead Online gameplay was already solid and its player base was healthy, then this would have worked as a cool little quality of life update. However, that wasn't the situation at all. Red Dead Online couldn't afford a quirky, cute update, especially not an update like this that only appealed to a small portion of the player base. For every player who enjoyed the nature mechanics, there were 3 that were bored by it. Most players wanted to focus on gunslinging and bounties, the highlights of an online western game, and all that players got was the ability to go hunting. There's nothing wrong with that, but it meant that an update like this would face major blowback from players who weren't interested in the content. They had failed to improve the fundamental issues that players had been complaining about since the beta, and they hadn't communicated with players at all before this update. In almost every way, 2020 was a massive step back for Red Dead Online. It went from having a bright future to being aimless and directionless. Fans went from supportive to distrustful and frustrated with Rockstar. The game had failed to see the revamps and content that it desperately needed, and things were only going to get worse from here. They came out with a Bounty Hunter update that added very little content and locked that content behind so many gold bars that it wasn't even worth it. In reality, all that this update did was anger fans without fixing any issues. Sure, they added something new, but you couldn't even use that new thing unless you had enough gold bars to buy it. And you couldn't really get enough gold bars doing the things that already existed because they were so boring that you had to buy microtransactions to even get the gold bars in the first place. It seemed like their priorities were in the wrong place. They needed to add more free content, not stuff that was locked behind a paywall. Not to mention, they even nerfed daily challenges, which was a way for players to get free gold bars. Now, they awarded less, which made it even harder to get the new things that were just added. As you could probably assume...
Yeah, that's my gripe with 2K. Shit. The game not even really up to par for you to be charging this much for me to just play the motherfucker.
Fans weren't happy. So if something didn't change fast, Red Dead Online would be dead in a matter of months. Could Rockstar save it? Despite everything, 2021 did get off to a better start. Rockstar seemed to have learned their lesson and swiftly announced an update earlier in the year. It was a smaller update, but it showed that they were still invested in the game. Fans began to feel somewhat hopeful again. And then, several months later, they shot those hopes down with their newest Outlaw Pass. The Outlaw Pass was the game's version of a battle pass, and it was typically released alongside an update. However, this time, the pass came alone. Not only was there no update, but the Outlaw Pass was cut from being 4 months to 2. Many players felt that the pass was no longer worth it, and that Rockstar was once again only worrying about the profitability of this game and not the players or the content. With every single month, it seemed that there were fewer and fewer reasons to play Red Dead Online. The player count was in freefall. So, Rockstar came out with another update. Maybe this time they could finally redeem themselves. This one was called Blood Money, and in many ways, Blood Money was a repeat of the Naturalist update. It wasn't bad, it did add some more missions and fleshed out the criminal world in Red Dead Online, but it wasn't good enough. The missions weren't that unique or fun. No new roles were added, and none of the fundamental issues from the very start were fixed. It was a simple band-aid when Red Dead Online had a gaping hole in its chest. In the words of Polygon, if you like Red Dead Online, you'll probably like Blood Money. The problem is that many Red Dead Online players don't really seem to like Red Dead Online right now. Blood Money was the last major update announced in Red Dead Online. Once that update flopped, Rockstar seemed to just give up. They reduced the weekly update system to monthly. They stopped communicating broader plans for Red Dead Online and seemed to refocus on GTA. Desperate fans made #SaveRDO go viral multiple times, but Rockstar ignored them. In July of 2022, Rockstar announced what fans had known for months. Red Dead Online would receive no more major updates just a few years after its release. How did it come to this? Red Dead Online had gone from being the second coming of GTA Online to a complete flop. Some will point to greed, others will point to laziness. I think the answer is a bit more simple. Rockstar just didn't know what to do with Red Dead Online. Despite all the comparisons, Red Dead Redemption and GTA are very different franchises. The high-paced urban action of GTA translates very well to fast-paced online games. The more down-to-earth Western adventure...
You know what? I'm not giving them that out, to be honest. I'm gonna go, to be honest, it's not even laziness. They just don't give a fuck. They knew, they can see, they got people hired to watch social media and let me know what the fans are saying. They know exactly what you want. They just won't give it to you. You see, they was like, okay, here comes update, and all they did, drop a battle pass. Let me get some more money about you. Bro, they milking this shit. They trying to get every little last bit of money out of you. That's what's happening with a lot of games now, sadly. It's less about the gameplay, more about just pay, give me your money. Because they know people gonna do it. So, hey, that's why I'm like, please, do not let GTA 6 be. Oh man. It's your boy Toss on Saucy. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out, man. Peace.